were captives. They were under the control and the authority of Rome. Rome had conquered Israel, and they hated that. They were so upset. Rome was constantly messing things up, and so zealots swore. They all carried a knife. Every zealot, Jewish historians tell us this. They all had a knife, and they would make an oath. They would swear an oath by it and say, either my blood or a Roman blood will be on this knife. Meaning either I'm going to kill a Roman or a Roman's going to kill me with this knife. That's their oath. And so Simon would have made that oath. I'm killing a Roman or a Roman's killing me. The only people that zealots hated worse than Romans were Jewish Roman sympathizers. They were the worst of the worst. And of that worst of the worst, the 1% of the top most hated people in the world by zealots were tax collectors. That's why in the Bible you see all the time tax collectors mentioned next to harlots. And you're thinking today, man, I know I don't like the IRS, but are you really calling them a harlot? Understand what he's saying here. A tax collector in old times was someone that worked for the Roman Empire. Therefore, you're a Jewish Roman sympathizer, and you're taking money from your own people to give to their captives. And the only way you can make a living is to extort them for more taxes. And so these people were taking their money, giving it to the people who was over them in authority that had taken by force, and then on top of it, they're robbing you. Simon the Zealot would have hated tax collectors. Well, enter in Levi, also known as Matthew. Matthew was a tax collector. When Jesus Christ called him, he's literally sitting at a booth collecting taxes. And he said, you come, follow me. And he changes his name from Levi. Why is it important to call him? Why do I call him Levi? Because he was of the tribe of Levi. That's a high priest, y'all. He's one of the priests, a priestly tribe. And so a tax collector like Levi has forsaken his religion, which is a national religion for Jews. He's forsaken his people and working for the enemy. The only thing I can even make a comparison to is if bin Laden had somehow taken over the United States, and who am I going to pick on? Mickey. I'm going to pick on Mickey because he's big. He can take care of himself. And Mickey decides, you know what? I'm not following Jesus anymore. I'm following Allah. And I'm going to make Johnny pay taxes to bin Laden. And Johnny, you're going to give him an extra $500 a month because he's got to live too. You going to love that? No. You know why I'm going through all this? Because where in the Bible do you read that Simon the Zealot, who swore to kill Roman sympathizers, killed Levi? He didn't. These guys walked together for 4 years, lived together. Understand this. I'm not telling you that politics ain't important. It is. You need to exercise your right to vote and vote according to your conscience. But the moment you treat a Democrat or a Republican or a Libertarian or a Socialist as your enemy and they're a believer in Christ, you're the one that's in the wrong. You're the one in the wrong. The moment you treat someone that's an Alabama fan, an Auburn fan, a Tennessee fan, or even a Vanderbilt fan, we got one. Go Doors. Or Ole Miss fan. Where's he at? Oh, yeah, there he is. We got all kinds of fans. But the moment you start looking at people as if they're different because of the stupid things, whether they're male or female, whether they're gay or straight, we put all these barriers in, and the reality is we're all one in Christ. We're all walking different. That don't mean we're all perfect. I like, and I don't have this verse for you, but in 1 Corinthians, it says, and some will never enter the kingdom of heaven. He talks about drunkards. He talks about homosexuals. He talks about all kinds of people, liars, cheaters, blah, 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 everything. And then he goes in and says, such were some of us. But now we've been washed, we've been sanctified, and we've been justified in Christ. What's he saying to the Corinthians? We're all one now. And if you've put your faith in Christ Jesus, that's your identity. You're in Jesus Christ. You're now a Christian. You may vote Democrat or Republican. You may vote this way or cheer for this team over here. But number one, you're Christian. And we're to be united. We're to be together at all times. And don't allow the world to separate us. It's all about unity. So tell me again, why do you have the reason to hate? See, this is something I love that the Apostle Paul tells them here in this book. Right in verse 11, remember who you formerly were. You know what I've realized in my years of preaching and ministry is that it's typically the Christians who have been saved for the longest time that have forgotten who they once were. And they're no longer greeters of the house of the living God. They're now bouncers in the house of the living God. They try to be the guy that looks at you or the woman that looks at you and wants to judge you for the way you look, the way you talk, the way you act. And the truth is they forgot who they once were. Jews looked at Gentiles wrong because they didn't dress their way, they didn't talk their way, they didn't have the same rules, the laws, all of it. And you're so less than me. And we have so many Christians that want to do that today. You don't dress like me. You don't talk like me. There's a reason why I look this way. I know I could look a little more handsomer if I would cut this off. Yeah. I know I could look a little more dapper if I put on a suit and tie and shine my shoes, get me some pearly whites. Y'all, I'm a child of the living God. And He washed me, sanctified, and justified me. And it ain't about my clothes no more. It ain't about my speech. All of that changes as you grow in Christ, but you got to know you're in Christ. So why are we being bouncers?